Welcome to Building Strong Parents. This is a series for strengthening family bonds. My name is Ranbir Puar. I'll be your host for this class. I'm a TEDx speaker of a speech called Building Strong Children. I'm a mom of two incredible boys. I'm a self-image specialist, a life strategies coach since 2009, the speaker, author, and podcaster. You can find my podcast. It's called Living Light Radio. What we're going to talk about today is the foundation for strengthening family bonds, the impact and importance of the self-image on parenting. It's so important. I'd like to start with a quote by Fred Rogers. We all love Mr. Rogers. And he says, "If the day ever came when we were able to accept ourselves and our children exactly as we and they are, then I believe we would have come very close to an ultimate understanding of what good parenting means." So what is the self-image? Simply put, it's how you speak to yourself when you're alone with your thoughts. It is the greatest barometer of the quality of your inner life. It's the mental picture you have of yourself. Do you like who you see? Are you comfortable with the person you see? Do you feel worthwhile or worthless? Who am I? That's usually what the self-image comes down to. So the truth about parenting is that there's no one way to parent a child, but there are, however, many universal practices that you can adapt to your own parenting style to make your own. Like I said, the focus of my work is the self-image. And I'm going to repeat, is how you speak to yourself when you're alone with your thoughts. It's essentially the foundation of the human experience. The strength and consistency of that foundation dictates the strength of the life you build upon it. And I want to remind you, because this happens quite often for parents as we, think about, we're hard on ourselves. And I want to remind you that you are the best parent for your child. You are here, you're learning, you're constantly challenging yourself to question your own systems, and you're continually growing. So you can't put yourself down, because you really, really are the best parent for your babies. So when kids are young, parents tend to be the main source of establishing their self-image. So that's the foundation. When we start school, our teachers and peers also impact how we feel about ourselves. And, the truth is, coaches and teachers, like teachers of the arts, like piano and all of those people, they can all start to impact how we feel about ourselves. As we age, we can face greater and greater challenges, and our self-image dictates how we navigate sometimes rough waters of life. But it also impacts how we view the calm days, the goodness of life. So it's really important to understand the self-image isn't there just for the bad days. It helps you really understand the good ones as well, and understand that both are temporary. So the self-image is a filtration system through which you view your life. Two people can be present for the exact same situation and see it completely differently because of their filter. I mean, we've all been in arguments and fights with people in our lives. Let's face it, it's real. And, two people in the same room and they see the same thing. They see one thing two completely different ways. And that is because the self-image dictates that filtration system. So it's super important to acknowledge that. So why is a strong self-image vital? Many successful, talented people will turn to self-sabotage because even though they're achieving, they feel that they're not worth it or they're not good enough. You've probably heard of the imposter syndrome. That's, right up there. Have you ever in your life reached a goal that you had set and you achieved it, but you felt empty? And maybe you didn't feel empty right away, but within a week or a month, you felt empty. So when you establish yourself from the inside out with a strong self-image, you will really understand what accomplishment feels like at work and at home. It just feels different. It feels more like fulfillment versus just checking off a box. Because the reminder here is With a poor self-image, you could achieve, but are you measuring yourself with the stick that belongs to somebody else? Are you trying to reach somebody else's goals and dreams? Or are they your own? And what's interesting about self-image and parenting, I wanted to share this with you because I heard on the radio that women are most stressed during the school year because, and these are moms, right? Because they feel judged and pressure to keep up with the other moms and the other kids' accomplishments. So all of a sudden it becomes this race and competition. So that's really an interesting observation. But what's the difference between self-esteem and self-image? Are they interchangeable terms? Well, they're not, because self-esteem can fluctuate. It can change in an instant. And we've all experienced a nasty comment that causes our self-esteem to falter. We've also experienced a compliment which can quickly bolster our self-esteem. But that doesn't necessarily impact your self-image. And neither does self-efficacy, because it doesn't mean just because you have good self-efficacy that you have a positive self-image. I had really great self-efficacy growing up, but I did not have a good self-image. My self-esteem would go up and down with the praise or an insult. It just depended. But once I developed a strong self-image and could teach other people to do the same thing, I noticed that it kept them steady, not at the whim of the perception of others. It was so vital in the shift on how you live your life. Inner dialogue can be toxic. There's a saying that goes like this: if someone says something bad about you, it's like a drop of poison in your bloodstream. But I feel that if you say something bad about yourself, it's like pumping in an IV so you can be on a constant drip of poison. Eventually, that toxicity will pollute your entire system. It's just like an addict. You become so accustomed to that hit of negative mind chatter that to separate yourself from it, to stop it, it's actually quite scary and it's tough to do. I'm not saying that, they're equivalent to addiction, but it's a form of communication that becomes addictive. We become so ingrained in that negative mind chatter and that low self-image that to let it go feels like we're betraying ourselves, like we're betraying the story and the pain that we suffered. But the truth of the matter is, by letting it go, you're not betraying the hurt you experienced. You're just transforming it into something useful. So what are some signs of a low self-image? This could apply to you or to your child or your grandchild if you're watching for your family. So sensitivity to critiques and critical feedback. So a person that has a low self-image has a really hard time incorporating feedback from others. You feel on the defensive, so you assume they're trying to correct you rather than support you. The second thing you might notice is frequent negative inner dialogue. Most of your inner dialogue has a negative bias or focus. I can definitely relate to that because that is something that I really, really had to transform in my own inner dialogue. The next thing is that you may feel ashamed when you fail. Oh, actually, I can really relate to this one too. When you experience failures, you feel like a failure versus processing it as an event. You also let your failure keep you from trying new things. And last but not least, the fastest way to know if you're suffering from a low self-image and that your inner critic is at the wheel is your focus is on problems, not solutions. So when you pay attention to what you're thinking about, most of the time, you're thinking about things that are stressful versus fixing them or finding the road through. Okay, does that make sense? How does your self-image impact you and how you parent? Well, the reason understanding the self-image is the foundation class, this is where we start, is because it's the foundation of the human experience. Your self-image as a parent impacts how you filter the world around you. So you either see the world as for you or against you. Either you're focusing on problems or solutions. And because we are programming our children, we are their role models, it will definitely impact how we parent. because this is how we're, if you think about a parent, what's a parent? A parent is someone who coaches you on how to be an adult, really, a self-reliant, self-sufficient, resilient adult. So if your coach is coming in with a cracked foundation, chances are you're going to pass a little bit of that along to the people that you're training, right? So it's super important for you to uncover your own programming. So how do you do that? How do you know what's running the show for you? Because sometimes, a lot of us aren't consciously aware of the story that we tell ourselves. So we're going to go through a little bit of an exercise, and I'd love for you to do this with me. Picture yourself as a young child. And you know what? It can be really helpful to find an actual picture of yourself from those early years. So if you have to press pause and go grab that picture. Now, I'd like you to visualize yourself asking your parents for help. Were they available? Did they let you need them? Focus on how well you felt your parents met your emotional needs. And please remember, your perception is your reality. Now, think back to sharing your success with your parents. Were they excited for you? Did they celebrate you? If not, how did this make you feel? And last, can you recall telling yourself that it's pointless to try to win them over, and then making a decision to stop asking them for anything and deciding that you were going to just go it alone? You couldn't count on them. Some people feel the voice of their inner critic and inner dialogue in different ways. Some people will keep telling themselves they're a fraud. What sorts of things do you tell yourself about why you are not deserving of success, or why you're not deserving of a child that listens to you or connects with you or bonds with you? Why are you not deserving of the love that comes from a family, that comes between parent and child? Ask yourself those questions, because it's usually based on the concept of you feeling like a fraud some way or some form. And some people actually feel they don't hear their inner dialogue, but they can feel insecurity in their bodies. And if this is you, where do you feel it? A lot of people process emotions through their physical being. So pay attention to when you think about that uncovering your programming exercise we did. If you need to, go back and redo it and close your eyes and feel it in your body. What part of your body fires up when you think about your childhood? Because it's super important for you to put some attention on healing that, okay? We're going to move on. So we can all agree that the majority of us make decisions based on the programming that was established in our formative years. And what we did just now was a quick exercise of bringing some awareness to old patterns that are possibly running you off course by bringing them into your conscious awareness. And you can say this to yourself, because this is what I used to do. I used to know that it wasn't good for me, but I was going to think it anyway because it was too difficult for me to think about change. So I would just acknowledge that the thought I was thinking wasn't good for me, but it's there. And then after a while, I started to say, why do I keep doing this when I know it hurts me? So I changed the question I asked myself. I just started to ask myself, well, why do I keep thinking this? What can I think differently? How can I transform this energy? So it forces you to change much quicker than by just letting things run on autopilot. That's the beauty of being a human being. We have this conscious mind that can really, really help us transform, because we're not changing the reality of your life. We're not going back and pretending like the past didn't happen and your hurt didn't happen. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm just asking you to ask yourself, how did your past build you, not break you? I'm just asking you to change your perspective. I'm asking you to shift your self-image so you can then go forward and program your little humans with this place of a solid foundation. That's all that we want to do as parents, is to make their lives just a little bit better than our own. And I have a little trick I use to help me and the kids and the adults that I coach. And it's an old Sufi saying, and it's supposed to be between your dialogue with another human being. But what I would like you to do is to apply this to your own inner dialogue. I would like you to ask yourself, when you have those thoughts come up, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Because we say a lot of untrue, unkind, and unnecessary garbage to ourselves each and every single day. And we tend to justify it. We let it go because it's not hurting anyone, right? But it is hurting somebody. It's hurting you. And then that ripple effect goes to your children and your loved ones and your friends and your colleagues. It goes into your community. So you need to catch it. You need to be more disciplined with that internal dialogue. You need to know no one else can change it but you. And this is a quick filter to get that process started. So don't hold back. Write these 3 questions down somewhere. Take a screenshot. Make it your screensaver. Whatever you need to do to make this start for you, do it, please. It's a game changer. Because what happens is it changes how you communicate with yourself, which means it changes how you communicate with everyone else. So during this next week, you're going to have some homework. I'm going to ask you to audit your inner dialogue to make sure you continue to write down what you recall of your parents' messages to you. So that first exercise we did, a lot of people don't have stuff come up right here in this session. So keep those notes handy and, keep adding to that messaging you got from your parents. Keep adding to it. And keep track of other messaging from adults in authority that comes up too. Your teachers, coaches, aunts and uncles. Oh my gosh, my aunts and uncles and my cousins gave me some pretty challenging things to overcome in my life with the messages that they gave me, for example. So it can come from a lot of different places. But then make sure to take some time to review the similarities and differences between your inner dialogue and the dialogue you can go back to and find in your programming from parents and other adults. And then always ask yourself, is this thought pattern moving me towards freedom? Freedom to be you, right? You really, really, really want to unleash your inner light because you're here for a really unique purpose. Your purpose is different than mine. Your children are different than mine. And guess what? They absolutely, without question, love you. What happens is when you improve your self-image and you help them improve theirs, guess what? You guys get to really learn to like each other too. Enjoy being in each other's company, not just through this parenting process where you're coaching them on how to be adults, but when they're adults and you're an adult and you get to hang out and create these incredible experiences together, that's what life's all about. Life is all about living the width of it, right? Like it is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't try to rush through these years of parenting. Slow down. Get to know yourself, because once they move out, you don't have this chance to be reflective and upgrade you. You won't get that chance because they're going to be gone. They're these perfect little mirrors for you to have this opportunity to get back to you, the star that lives within you, that big bright light. And the truth is, all humans desire independence. We crave the ability to be our unique selves and need independence in order to discover and uncover who we are. So when you build a strong self-image, you become an independent thinker. You're not thinking based on the programming you received before you were 7 years old or through, elementary and high school. You are thinking for yourself. We all crave connection because life is all about relationships. And the one that matters the most is the one that you have with yourself, your self-image. That relationship dictates how you give and, most importantly, receive love. It's so important. You cannot love somebody and not receive love. It's one-sided, which means it's unbalanced, which means I can probably dig in a little bit and find some selfishness in there. So to love selflessly, you have to be loved as well. And the last thing I think, if I was to pick the top 3 things, is respect. Respect is critical in all relationships. When you respect yourself, it is impossible impossible to be disrespectful to others. I've learned that in my own transformation. I can't even get into it. It'll be too long of a story, but this is something that has been a big, big, big lesson for me, is just that self-respect. It's a big deal. So that is the end of our foundation class. If you have any questions, you can please message us. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook, and Twitter and Pinterest. You can just find the links on our website, which is www.freewithin.me. Or if you have any specific questions, you can always email, and I will do my best to respond to you within 48 hours. The email address is info@freewithin.me, and I really look forward to connecting with you again. You can also go check out our podcast. It's called Living Light Radio. The podcast is, geared towards giving you a little bit of wisdom and application that you can use, in your day-to-day life. The whole idea for me in doing this work is to make it practical, powerful, and profound, so you can learn to like your life. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this class, and I look forward to seeing you inside our other programs and connecting with you further.